There was literally 2 steamy scenes, 1.5. He mentioned wanting to do it in front of a mirror. That is like a Chekhov's gun not going off. Don't tease me, Julia, okay? We don't come to romance to be teased. We come to romance to enjoy ourselves. So, I read Romancing Mister Bridgerton by Julia Quinn in preparation for the upcoming premiere of Bridgerton Season 3 on Netflix. And I have some thoughts. If you are new here, my name is Neida, and I make videos on the internet about literally whatever I want. I talk mostly about pop culture and make thoughtful commentary about pop culture phenomenon. So sometimes it's books, sometimes it's movies, sometimes it's me breaking down the exact timeline of a 10-year-long rap beef between two men from opposite sides of the country. But that's going to be coming at you this weekend. Today, I wanted to talk about the novel, Romancing Mister Bridgerton, what I thought about it, and what it makes me feel in preparation for the 3rd season of Bridgerton. If you like my face or anything that I say in this video, please feel free to like and subscribe. Liking really helps me to find other people who might be interested in the content that I make. It like pushes it out in the algorithm to other people. And so does subscribing. And so particularly does commenting down below. Have you read Romancing Mister Bridgerton? What did you think about it? If you agree with anything that I say, if you disagree with anything that I say, if you're disappointed by anything that I say, let me know in the comments down below. I decided to read this book on a whim, and I read it over the course of 3 days. If you have been following me over on my shorts or on my TikTok, you know that I have been in a bombastic reading rut. It has been incredibly hard for me to get into any books. So I needed something that was going to be quick, easy, and breezy, and also with characters that felt familiar so that I kind of like could orient myself in the world that I was diving into. Blessedly, I think the book got me out of my reading rut because I just finished another book yesterday that I will talk to you about in my mid-year reading wrap-up. And I'm starting another book tonight that I'm actually really excited about. But yeah, the sad thing is that this book sucked. It sucked eggs. I hated it. I did not like it. I did not enjoy it. If I were to rate it out of 5 stars, I would give it 2 stars because there were moments that shone more than others, but for the most part, it was bad. And I want to make an entire video where I talk about Netflix's tendency to, in my opinion, adapt intellectual property that is in its own right not that good in the first place, so that whatever they do to it will be an improvement. Because the Bridgerton books, nobody expects romance novels to be like a William Faulkner novel, do they? Like, we're not expecting like Pulitzer Prize winning prose. We're expecting to have fun, to have like a sexy little story, to have characters that are relatable, and to come away with it feeling like a warm fuzzy feeling. I don't even think I really felt that when I finished reading this book. It was just like, made me uncomfortable, honestly. If you don't know anything about the Bridgerton series and you're watching this anyway, just because you like me, hi. It is about a family with 8 siblings. Apparently their parents loved each other very much because having that many children in late 18th century, early 19th century England is a lot. But it's these 8 siblings who are named by the first 8 letters of the alphabet, and each of them like finds somebody who they fall in love with and they get married in their own respective installment of the book. It's set during the Regency era in the United Kingdom. This is the time when you have those like all these Jane Austen books are set in. So like Pride and Prejudice, think of the like empire waist gowns where the seam is like right under your boobs. And people in like really big frilly ponytails with like little curls coming down, stuff like that. Anthony is the head of the family. He is the Viscount Bridgerton. He is the holder of the purse, and because his father died when he was young. Benedict is his like kind of whimsical second brother. Benedict is a kind of whimsical second brother who is an artist, and he's married by the time this book starts. And then the third brother is Colin. There are quite a few differences between the television series Bridgerton and the book series about the Bridgerton siblings. The TVs, which is bound to happen when you adapt something to screen. But like I said before, I think Netflix likes to take intellectual property that is already kind of like not that great, so that anything that they do to it could be seen as an improvement. What I was expecting going into this was a nice, empowering story about a fat girl falling in love. I love any form of media about fat women being loved on, because society, at least Western society, but honestly globally, is incredibly fat phobic. We hate people who are overweight. We project so much onto them. We treat them as if they do not deserve anything good in their lives because of the amount of weight that they hold on their bodies. And I don't like that. And I always love to see a story where somebody is loving a fat woman out loud. One of my favorite TV shows of all time is My Mad Fat Diary, which is also, funnily enough, based on a book starring Sharon Rooney. Like that, I find that so empowering as someone. I don't know if you would call me fat, honestly. I'm bigger than I used to be, but like even when I was really thin watching that, it was so empowering, because horrible to me, because it's like somebody othering someone, even with the knowledge that that person could very easily be them one day. Requires an astonishing lack of empathy. So I was hoping to go into this because in the television show, Penelope is played by the actress Nicola Coughlan, who starred in Dairy Girls, which is another one of my favorite TV shows of all time. And she's fat. Like, her character is fat. That's the whole thing, or part of the whole thing. And it's not just that she's fat, but she like doesn't get a lot of attention. I know British people love to be racist against other white people, so like it's also that her hair is red. Like, people don't like her because her hair is red. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but you know, not my circus, not my monkeys. But I wanted to read this book in particular because, like I said, I love a story about a fat girl getting loved on. So I was expecting that going into it. There's also, if you have watched the Bridgerton TV show, this isn't even really a spoiler because I'm pretty sure it's revealed at the end of the first episode. Penelope is Lady Whistledown, and in the show, like towards the end of the last season, it might be revealed, her secret identity might be revealed. So I wanted to see like how that plays out in the book. And I also wanted to see the progression of how Colin realizes that he's in love with Penelope and what he sees in her specifically that brings him closer to her, what it is that she gives him, what they find in each other, how they navigate being in love with one another. The answer was poorly, at least on Julia Quinn's part. I was disappointed on every account. What I didn't realize going into the book was that who Lady Whistledown was not revealed yet, like in fiction. So nobody knew that it was Penelope, not even the audience. So this is the book where that information is revealed to the audience. So there's moments in the book where Penelope is talking about Lady Whistledown as if it's not her. And I was like, oh wait, is Lady Whistledown not her in the books, or is it somebody else? But no, it is. It's just that like we as the like when the books were coming out 10-15 years ago or whatever, the audience didn't know that. So I feel like that reveal, probably the way that it was done in the book, I felt like was very tasteful, and that reveal probably ate like when people were reading it whenever the book came out. But me knowing that Penelope was Lady Whistledown going into it was a little bit confusing as to why nobody else. See, like, I was like, why are we pretending that we don't all know this already? The pacing of the story of Colin, like, slowly realizing that he's in love with Penelope and that she's really the one for him. She's not just his sister's best friend. It felt incredibly random and very rushed. So I want to start this, and it's kind of like mixed in with the Fatphobia, but I want to talk about that a little bit later. I think this is in part a characterization thing. Like, I was expecting one thing in terms of characterization from watching the first 2 seasons of the show, and I got something completely different. Colin's character is basically just that he likes to travel, and Penelope's character, to me at least, felt a lot more developed. Like, she's smart, she's funny, she's sarcastic, she's a writer, she's intelligent enough to have been Lady Whistledown. The show kind of took Colin's book characteristics. Like, in the book, he's incredibly charming. Like, he just will smile and girls will swoon and like fall down and pass out, right? And everybody loves him. He's so funny. They like gather around him. Everybody unanimously agrees that he is the most handsome Bridgerton brother. They took a lot of that stuff and gave it to Benedict instead. So Benedict is the one in the television show who's more like charming and funny, and people like flock to him. The Colin I was expecting from the show versus the Colin that I got in the book were two different people. And then the Colin that I got in the book felt still, even with the extra characteristics that he has from the book, he felt underbaked. Like, I didn't understand him as a character, even though this was supposed to be his book. I don't even know how to describe him to you other than that he likes to travel, right? And so when it came time for him to slowly realize that he was in love with Penelope and that she was the one for him, it just happened so randomly. And it felt random because I didn't know if this was within character for him or not. The major difference between the show and the book is that in the book, 10 years have elapsed since Daphne got married. So at the beginning of The Duke and I, which is the first book in the Bridgerton series, Penelope is 18 years old. She met Eloise 2 years prior, and she's had a crush on Colin those entire 2 years. In this book, she's a spinster. Nobody wanted to marry her. It's been 10 years. She's been Lady Whistledown for 11 years. And so she's really like, her chances of getting married are slim to none unless Colin comes around at some point, which is so sad to me because once again, it seems like the only thing about her that was objectionable is the fact that she's fat. And no one in this entire 10 years has shown any kind of interest in her, even though she's an incredibly interesting person. That is kind of explained through the fact that she's like shy and she doesn't really speak up, but it's also just like she's invisible to everyone around her. That honestly feels like such a disservice to Penelope's character, that this, like, the impression that I got from her from the show, this vibrant, funny, interesting, well-spoken, cool, honestly, girl would spend 10 years single, 10 years just like standing around waiting for this guy to be interested in her. And no one in those 10 years would show any kind of interest in her. That feels fatphobic, and it feels like sad, and it also flies in the face of the first thing that I read this book for, which is to see a fat girl being loved on. So then when Colin does finally come around to her, it feels random because it's almost like they had like two conversations that lasted longer than 20 minutes, and then that's when he realized how cool she was. But if he's known her for 10 years, you would think he's known her for 10 years and she's been his sister's best friend for 10 years. You would think that at some point in those 10 years, he realized how cool and interesting she was. You would think at some point in those 10 years, they had a conversation for longer than 20 minutes. Like, what actually changed? I guess it's that she lost some weight in between when he last saw her and when he sees her again, which I really enjoy that the show is not doing. They're not doing like a weight loss storyline in the time jump, because that's just so disrespectful, but I don't have time to get into all of that. But like, so yeah, I guess that is really what it is that she lost weight. He sees her with new eyes. That's so sad to me. It's very sad, and once again is counterintuitive to why I wanted to read this book, which was to see a fat girl getting loved on. It feels very random when the romance starts, and even when the like romance starts, like when the avalanche or the snowball starts tumbling down the hill to turning to an avalanche, it's not juicy. It doesn't feel earned. It just kind of feels like, well, this is happening now because Penelope's been in love with him for 10 years, so he had to come around at some point. The instigating incident of their romance is that he comes to her house to talk to her about how he thinks that Eloise is Lady Whistledown, and she's like, you're fucking crazy. But he's convinced that it's her, and then they start talking about how she's been single this whole time and his life and whatever, and she asks him to kiss her. Because she's like, I'm 28 years old. I've never been kissed. I can't die without ever experiencing that. And he kisses her. And then when he kisses her, he realizes that, oh, he's actually enjoying himself and he is attracted to her. But it doesn't progress at all. It just like jumps from there is what I should say. Because then he follows her, figures out that she's Lady Whistledown, and then for some reason on the carriage ride home, they start making out. And then because he has defiled her on this carriage ride home, he proposes marriage and his request is granted. And then even as they're like in the process of preparing for the wedding, which we would kind of expect from like the 1810s, but it's still sad that this proposal isn't coming from, he proposes to her because he was so horned up for her in the back of the carriage that he like somewhat undressed her and they dry humped. So because of this sexual act, and he's an honorable man, he goes and proposes. But it's not him proposing because he loves her. It's not him like pining after her and looking at her and like he realizes on his own at some point, oh my god, I love this person, I just want them so bad and I can't wait to make them my, he's like, no, this is the right thing to do because of what we just did. And that feels so disappointing and so disrespectful to Penelope as a character, because there's moments after they get engaged, right before the wedding happens, where he's still trying to figure out, am I in love with her? Like, do I love her? I mean, I'll be excited to be married to her because I have fun with her and I think she's interesting, but do I love her? But then he realizes later on that he does love her, and then that's when they have sex for the first time. I would have wanted him to realize that he loved her in the first act of the book, and then the climax of the second act is him proposing. And then they still get married in the third act, and we get to see some of their married life after that and like the fallout of the fact that people are starting to figure out that she's Lady Whistledown. But the marriage itself and their relationship is instigated by the fact that he loves her. We know that she loves him. She's loved him this entire time. But he realizes that he loves her. And he's coming to her from that place, as opposed to they made out in the back of a carriage and now marrying her is the right thing to do. Let's talk about the pacing and then we'll talk about the fatphobia. The pacing was super off. We start the book and she's like, oh, I'm in love with Colin. And he's come back from traveling wherever he is. He spent these past 10 years as a bachelor just randomly like jaunting around the world. He started when he was 23. Now he's 33 and everyone's like, when is this guy going to get married? He's trying to figure out who Lady Whistledown is because Lady Danbury has issued this like challenge that whoever can figure it out. First of all, the Queen is not in this book, so Queen Charlotte's not going to come up in this video. She's issued this challenge. I'll give £1,000 to whoever figures out who Lady Danbury is, or I mean who Lady Whistledown is. So he's trying to figure that out while she's pining after him. They kiss, they dry hump in the carriage, they get engaged, they get married, and then there's still like 25% of the book left after they get married. And that part of the book dips severely, but it's also concerned with people figuring out that she's Lady Whistledown. And he's really angry at her for being Lady Whistledown, right? It moved so quickly to get to the wedding. Then there was so much book left after the wedding that it was like, it's like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on? What's happening? And then the book that was left after the wedding was not as interesting as the earlier parts of the book. The thing that hurts me the most, or that I found the least enjoyable about this book, was that Penelope left it still believing in her heart that she was ugly. Like Colin tells her that she's beautiful and she's like, no, I'm not. In her head, she doesn't contradict him, but she's like, no, I'm not. Like, nobody else would ever say that about me, but he loves me now, and I know that he loves me because he's saying that. And that's so sad. Like, just because someone is fat doesn't mean that they can't be beautiful. Doesn't mean that they can't see beauty in themselves. Do you know what I mean? So I think it just makes me feel really sad that the only character who is canonically fat in this entire book series gets a love story and a book that feels so perfunctory. It feels like, well, this guy had to get married eventually. She's interested in him. Now it's happening. It doesn't feel like it comes from love. And I think a lot of fatphobia, and the thing, quiet as it's kept, people will fuck fat women all day. They'll fuck them, they'll keep them as mistresses, they'll pay for their lifestyles, they'll have them as sugar babies, they'll watch featuring fat women, but they don't want to claim them in person, right? And that's the same thing with any type of marginalized woman. You could say that about Black women, you could say that about trans women, you could say that about disabled women, right? They don't want to go outside with that girl and say, this is my girl. And to see that reproduced in what is supposed to be a romance novel, this is a genre that's all about fantasy. Penelope is my favorite character from the TV show. And to see her get short shrift like this in the source material for the show just made me feel really sad. I wanted her to have more agency in the situation. I wanted him to come to her from a place of love, not lust. He knows he wants to fuck her. That's the thing that he's sure about. He can't figure out if he loves her. And if he wants to fuck her, why wouldn't he love her? I hope this is going to make sense. He's known this girl for 10 years, on and off, because he's been traveling around the world. But she's been around the family. His mom loves her. She spent all this time with his loved ones. They have had a chance to get to know one another. He knows what type of person she is. If he's looking at her with new lust eyes after they kiss in her drawing room, why would he not know her well enough to also be in love with her at that point? Why would he have to still figure out how he feels about her? Like, up until almost before the wedding. Except that because she's fat and he does not see fat women as proper objects of love and care. In the time that has elapsed over the 10 years, Penelope mentions that she lost 2 stone, which is about 28 pounds. So she hasn't lost that much weight by the time this book starts for her to be considered thin now. I think even after Colin realizes that he is sexually attracted to Penelope, he has to get over the hump of not seeing somebody who is overweight as a potential romantic partner. Which is sad in a romance novel because this is a genre that's all about fantasy. I come for the fantasy, and I don't want to see the hate of the real world reproduced in this. If I have to suspend my disbelief, then I have to suspend my disbelief. And I don't even have to suspend my disbelief to believe that fat women can be loved, because I know that they can, and I already believe that. I just want to interact with media where that is reified consistently, because I think at this point in 2024, we deserve that. And even when this book came out, we still deserved that. If I as a younger person could have read a book about a fat girl getting just absolutely showered with love and affection, it would have changed my entire life. My Mad Fat Diary did change my entire life. Are we gonna get into emotional territory? I might just put this in the Patreon cut, or it might make it to the main feed. I don't know. But I battled with an eating disorder my entire teenage life because I was so afraid of gaining or keeping on weight. And when I watched my Mad Fat Diary, you've never heard of the show. It's about this girl named Rachel Earl, who attempts suicide at the beginning, so trigger warning. But she attempts suicide. She's in a mental health facility for a while, over the summer. And then when she comes out, she reconnects with her childhood best friend and becomes a part of her childhood best friend's group of friends, her new group of friends. These kind of older people from the 6th form that they are all about to go to. And through this group of friends, she meets a guy named Finn, who is also a romantic interest for her childhood best friend. So there's a little love triangle element going on there. But it's clear from the beginning that he's interested in her and they are interested in one another. And over the course of the series, their relationship blossoms and grows, and he continually says to her, and even when she's in the depths of feeling she's unlovable, there's nothing good about her, whether it's because of how her body looks or just because of her mental illness problems, he says to her how much he loves her, how interested in her he is, how attracted to her he is. Seeing them kiss, seeing them hold hands, seeing him look at her, seeing him literally look at her like she is the biggest, she is the sun. She is the warmest star in the entire universe. And then watching the interviews and the behind the scenes stuff where the actor who plays that character talks about how much he loves the actor who plays Ray, and how funny she is and how interesting she is and how attractive she is and how she's just like the best person in the world. Seeing this woman be loved on truly for who she is, even though she's fat, but seeing that character be loved out loud, even though she's fat, and not just like slightly overweight, you know, but like fat, right? It actually changed the way that I saw myself and the way that I saw the possibilities for my life. I'm not going to say that it healed my eating disorder, right? You know, that's a lifelong battle. That's something that you deal with for years. But it did help me see a different possibility for what life could be like. For the fact that I could still be loved even if I was fat. And not just desired, because I've always known that I can be desired. People will fuck anything. And that's not to say that some people are nasty or some people are ugly just because of what they look like. But it is to say that people will fuck anything. Like, we want to have sex, we want to procreate. Desire doesn't mean anything to me. Well, it does. It does, and I learned that the hard way. And I'm going to cut that part out. Desire, to me, is like, that's the sky, that's the air, whatever. What matters to me is love, and knowing that somebody can look at me and see love in me. And that's what I wanted for Penelope, and I did not get that. And that is why I did not enjoy this book at all. I can only hope that the show will focus more on Penelope being an object of Colin's love and care. And I can only hope that, oh God, it is 10:40. I gotta go to sleep. That we get to see that representation of a fat person. My camera cut off right when I was about to transition to the outro, but yes, that is what I have to say about Romancing Mr. Bridgerton. 10 out of 10 do not recommend that you read it if you wanted to in preparation for season 3 of Bridgerton. But yeah, if you have read any books where the fat girl gets the guy, and watched any movies or TV shows where that is the case, and they are loved on properly, okay? Loved on properly. Let me know about those in the comments down below, please. Are you excited for season 3 of Bridgerton? I have been absolutely feral. Season 2 came out 2 whole years ago, and I love Penelope and I love Nicola Coughlan, and I'm so excited. Like, it's bad. But yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. Once again, if you like me or anything that I have said today, please subscribe to this channel. Give it a big thumbs up. That really helps me to find other people who might be interested in my content. And question of the day for you to answer down below. What is your favorite kind of sushi, if you eat sushi? If you don't like sushi, why? Let me know in the comments down below. I love you dearly, and I will see you in the next one. Bye! Another big issue that I had with the book that I forgot to say, there was literally 2 steamy scenes. 1.5, really. Because one of them, they did not have full sex. The other one, they did. But those were the only 2 steamy scenes in the entire book. He mentioned wanting to do it in front of a mirror. That is like a Chekhov's gun not going off. They never did it in front of a mirror. I finished the entire book waiting for them to do it in front of a mirror. Don't tease me, Julia, okay? We don't come to romance to be teased. We come to romance to enjoy ourselves. So, it's disgraceful.